Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the RationalInvestor.com's weekend frivolity, the broiler chicken show. Actually, it was really cool. Let's see. I don't know whether you can hear this on YouTube, though. Anyway, that's a soundbite. Andrea, who's going to be my Portuguese real estate aficionado, just posted that in the lounge before we got the video going here today. But I don't know whether YouTube actually lets that go through or not. But anyway, here we are. We are live. TBG Crypto says classic. I don't know. Did you guys actually hear the little bucks, or did YouTube cut that out? Anyway, welcome back to the frivolity. Oh, you could hear it. Awesome, great. Hey, we'll play it again then. And again. One more time. All right, Brian's now being a goof. Actually, it was interesting. I saw on YouTube, and I don't know how we're supposed to do this or not. I guess not YouTube. This is Twitter. These guys now, there's people coming out saying, don't listen to these crypto social influencers. They're just going to get you into trouble. And of course, they're hyping and touting. And, I mean, ironically enough, God, you constantly hear me going week after week after week. TA doesn't matter, just buy and you'll get rich, right? Gold-plated steaks and the whole damn thing. And I was really impressed. Somebody actually replied back, I know a guy that does it right. Yeah, that's me. Here, there's my funny face. And he teaches it. So thank you very much, Wazi. The only problem is do we get swept up in this euphoria? I could very easily see just a massive backlash to crypto people and stuff like that if these politicians and stuff get a hold of this the right way, which is kind of a shame. I mean, I don't know what the fate of this space is, but I have told you guys recently that I do find that it moves very circular. I always want to say cyclical, but I don't know whether that's the right word. Anyway, 4-year cycles and the like. Let's see if this thing updates now. This was bugging Chris earlier. YouTube wouldn't have the little broiler chickens icon. Let's see what's going on. I wonder if that actually is playing live right now. No, still that black screen. Not quite sure why YouTube's doing that, but anyway. I did also through the weekend, just sort of an update to you guys. We are constantly debating as to whether having all our eggs in one basket are no pun intended. There's Brian in his chicken suit. Oh, actually, you can't see that, can you? In the chat room, somebody just posted this. Sharky posted. There's Brian. Hey, what a handsome guy. Getting ready for the broiler chicken show. But we kind of wanted to just, have a number of different bases covered. So going forward, I set up an account on this Rumble site. And actually, I put out a tweet yesterday. We probably kind of like the way we've done Twitter here. Is Brian has sort of his personal account where he says lots of crazy, stupid, offensive stuff that ends up getting himself into trouble. And then we have sort of like the official TRI site, which is really, about the partnership with Julian and Sjord and all the various different people that are part of the team. And, kind of like, if anything here, there should be a little disclaimer. The views of Brian Beamish do not reflect the ownership of TRI. And we do not condone half of what he says. That kind of disclaimer kind of thing, right? And those that are politically correct in this world, those that actually have beautiful PMA, they run these sort of interactions with the public. And by the way, Mr. PMA, who is running the social media feed, he's also running a crypto trading fund using our proprietary software. to help him time his purchases and sales, and he's killing the market here. I mean, you literally, I mean, it's poetry in motion. And if anything, I would actually like to see this get to the point where Brian can just sort of slowly fade into the background, and you, as the community, actually take over this site and take over all the sort of interaction. I've often said that Jojo asked me after she passed to embark on this adventure. She never said that there was going to be success. She always said that there was potential to change the world. Also, too, she told me that I had to really learn how to listen, which I didn't like at all. But I definitely think that we're actually getting to the point where I believe that we're actually at the point where TRI is now, it's not just the Brian Bemis show. And you guys have heard me talk about this lots. That people like Josh, and then of course, TRI's principles. Sjord has basically built this 1980s website out, brought it into the 21st century, and now sort of my life's work, my thesis, this whole idea of trading with the market breadth, is now articulated in a very clear message. And I think that the message was just spot on. Like, we just had the wickedest sell signal there in the stock market about 2 or 3 weeks ago. And you see what the stock markets are doing. In fact, we had our sell signals in crypto in particular about a month or so ago. And actually, what I find fascinating about this is I believe that the crypto market, and it makes perfect sense, but I actually think the crypto market is leading the broader economy, the broader market quite a bit here. So I get the impression, like, if we look at the stock market breadth kind of idea, you can see there's the Dow crapping out. There's the S&P 500. This is like Canadian, Australian, European, and then a lot of the different sectors. So we got like things like the commodity sector, the bond market, utilities, transports. They all sort of work in conjunction. Anyway, the point of the matter here is, you can clearly see that stock market is in meltdown mode. And that's sort of where crypto was, back kind of the end of July. Then we kind of went sideways, a little bit of a divergence there. And then we really puked out for our final lows. But you can see, interestingly enough, crypto is actually trying to work its way higher, which I find fascinating right now. I like the idea that we can actually use the different relationships of this sector or breadth analysis, i.e., what is the slope of the particular lines, and then crosses, in that relationship, red crossing above teal, that's a fast signal. And also, too, we can use this as a 50 line sort of, I'm a bull above 50, I'm a bear below 50. I think this is a fantastic data set, lots and lots of information. It's a beautiful oscillator for the market. And, fascinatingly, crypto it's hanging in there. I'm surprised, actually. Wanted to and I got off on a tangent there talking about the breadth. What I really wanted to start off with is as a sort of a side to YouTube. Rumble is getting sort of going in earnest. It's gaining inertia, it seems. I set up a personal account over on Rumble, and I just wanted to get it going. And I would actually, to be honest with you, I would prefer to just basically go live through the Rumble platform. If nothing more than just to give YouTube a bit of competition, right? If anything, I think it makes a lot of sense. You have a number of different options in your life, whether it be you have several brokerage houses. So you're constantly, comparing the brokerage houses. And if one's the house lets you down, then you say, sorry, I'm moving my business elsewhere. just have that kind of flexibility, in the crypto exchanges. Holy moly. Have you ever got to be flexible in that space? Just an FYI, they have sort of a rule. You set up your account. They don't really mind you uploading videos. So to get the ball rolling, I created this channel over here on Rumble, Brian the Rational Investor, his channel. This will be sort of my personal channel here. And then, as I said, kind of like Twitter, we'll have sort of an official TRI channel. But just to get this up and running and going, I uploaded just a little intro video. Who am I? Then a very quick Bitcoin summary. It was like, 5-10 minutes long, just talking about some of the cycles that I've talked to you guys on YouTube at repeatedly. So it's certainly nothing new. And they say to go live on their platform, you have to have 100 subscribers. So I just set this up last night. I put a little note out on Twitter. Just there was the broadcast of the videos, basically saying I need 100 subscribers to be able to go live on Rumble. So I would actually ask of you, but I'm not quite sure. Is this breaking YouTube laws or something? I'll put there is the channel link for my channel there on Rumble. And if you happen to be on the site, awesome. Just, throw me a subscribe. And let's get that number up above 100. And then Chris and I can experiment with comparing the sort of production quality of YouTube versus this Rumble. And is it actually a realistic alternative? We did sort of try the library credits route down the road, but of course, Big Brother has a very hard time dealing with cryptocurrency-based ventures, and the whole idea of them raising capital using the cryptocurrencies, I think, really pissed Big Brother off, and so they kind of put the kibosh on the library credits. The interesting angle with this company, and full disclosure, I certainly don't want any conflicts of interest. But I like the idea of this company actually being a realistic alternative to YouTube. I think that just makes common sense. The only problem is if they get up and running and they're kicking ass, who's just going to come along and just gobble them up and pay a ridiculous premium to the current market price for their shares. And then all of a sudden, boom, it just gets incorporated into where. But the point here is they are working with a SPAC. And actually, I don't see where the actual reference is, but this is the company, CFVI, CF Acquisition Corp. So full disclosure, just for all of you, I'm a shareholder of this CFVI. And when I saw this, look at that W. This is the funny thing. I thought, like somebody had said, there's a lot of people that are on social media and they're hyping the shill and use my referral code and all that kind of nonsense, right? And it just drives you crazy. But there are some people that are actually trying to help you learn how to be better traders, right? And that's in fact, I think I probably should even highlight that. I'm awfully pleased to see that. See, even TRI PMA, they like this guy's tweet. This guy is awesome. Thank you very much, sir. I'll just say, just put it out there. So, I'm trying to help you guys make good investment decisions. Whether you decide to buy any of the crap that I tell you, that's your decision. Absolutely 100%. It's your decision. If anything, what I would even suggest is that you listen to clowns like me, and then you go and talk to your personal financial advisor about the appropriateness of such said financial investment idea and your plan. Now, remember, I used to be one of those financial advisor drones. So I know exactly how the game goes. I have repeatedly, while I've been talking to you people on social media and stuff, been making fun of the mindless sort of shills, use my referral code, gold plated stakes and the whole thing. So it'll be interesting to see whether I get sucked down that rabbit hole as well. I don't think so. Like, if anything, it was probably good. And actually, I thought I tweeted that out, didn't I? Isn't that bizarre? Oh yeah, there it is. So it's probably good that I wasn't mentioned in this. I don't know, maybe I was. But by all means, they've got here BitBoy, Moon, Carl, MM Crypto, blurring ethical lines. So I wouldn't be surprised if there is more and more of this kind of talk going forward. It really wouldn't surprise me one bit. And yeah, no, we don't want to be mentioned here, that's for sure. But I think at the same time too, I'm constantly going on to you guys. I use horrible language, and I constantly tell you people to work with a trading plan, trade setups. And then, like I said, I make fun of the people that just say, oh, just go and buy, you're guaranteed to make money, and use my referral code. So I don't think I'm going to be thrown in this batch. But at the same time too, I also don't have a million gazillion followers. What is there? There's looks like there's 40 people over on YouTube. Hey, 40 people, that's pretty good. 41. Hey, did that just go up or down? Maybe you guys over there on YouTube, and actually some of you guys in the hangout here. We're doing this on Skype as well, or not Skype. What is this thing called? Zoom? Is that what this is? I think that's what it is. Zoom. Yeah, there you go. So if you guys could go on over to that YouTube page, and I suppose we were going to try and also simulcast this through the Rumble page, but maybe you guys could do me a favor and go on over. Hey, look at that. Hey, I already got a couple more sites covered. Like I said, we get that number up above 100, and then we can do this right off of Rumble. And if you guys are over on that YouTube page, I see there's like 40 some odd people, 14 likes. So if you could do me a favor and hit the like button, subscribe, ring Brian's nipple bells, the whole damn thing, make Google happy, and maybe we can change somebody's lives for the better here. And I'll tell you, I mean, I like the idea of somebody finally coming along and being some serious competition to YouTube. And frankly speaking, I thought that was an awesome buy there. Couldn't believe how lucky I pulled one out of my butt there, loading up on this guy down here. I don't know whether I'd really want to buy here. If anything, this is on the hype of the actual deal being done. Notice that they did leave a pretty darn big gap right down here. So my hunch is, after all the excitement's done, from what I understand, this October, November is going to be a really challenging time in the stock market. So maybe what you find is that this thing spikes on short-term euphoria. If I'm lucky and it spikes all the way up top here, I might be able to sell half on a double kind of idea, because I bought basically at 10. If I can get that $20 area, then rock and roll. Nice test of those highs. That would be great. But kind of like what you saw here, right? Not a good idea to go chase markets way up here. Just be patient, and the darn thing, after everybody sort of stopped all their circle jerk orgy sort of FOMO attitude, nobody's really talking about this stuff anymore. Down the road, they'll come down, fill in gaps like we see over here. Keep in mind, this is that's a huge gap. This is a daily price chart, but look at the size of this gap right here. And Shark Toshi's over there on YouTube, so maybe Shark Toshi, you can tell these good people what's the statistical probability. Maybe some of you other YouTubers, viewers, know the answer, but what's the statistical probability the price actually will trade right back down to that level there, $10? It's pretty high. 91, Noure. Look at that. You totally kick butt. Brenko. So we don't even need you, Sharky. We are actually, speaking of which, Sharky is, shout out to Sharky. Sharky's going to be graduating to full-time sort of semi-instructor status, probably over the fall and winter period here, as one of our instructors, which often happens. One of our instructors is said he's had fun doing the program, but he wants to move on to greener pastures, which makes sense. And so big shout out, Shark Toshi. And the great part about it is it was more the community of instructors that were like, Sharky, I think you're ready for prime time. So what that does mean, though, and we might as well make a formal announcement of it, is that over the next 4 or 5 months, we are going to be looking for a new TA for the level 1 program. Probably like maybe starting in the new year. So if you happen to be going through the education program and you would love to do the kind of jobs that Sharky and Murat and Ray and Peter all do, we'll be looking for somebody. So, but anyway, congrats, Sharky. Let's see. Also, too, we should mention that maybe put this away for now. We should mention that we do have a raffle coming up for the fall term. And I guess the question is, how am I going to show you this? I guess we'll go over here. If you are interested in participating in the raffle, this is kind of a, 2022, 2023, what a screwy time in this world, eh? So we have a trip planned for Portugal here this time period. We're also going to have a raffle for a seat in the school program. And when we come back from our trip, actually, this level 1 school program should be fully up and rocking and rolling. Chris is actually going to come to Portugal with us. Chris is the show sort of director, producer here with me. And really, I couldn't do this without him. So thank you very much, Chris. Fantastic job. And he's going to actually try and continue doing daily briefs while we're on the road. Now, technically, this should be a little bit of a vacation for Brian. So I don't know whether I really want to work my ass off, because I am going to be looking at a number of different places to consider TRI campuses in Portugal going forward. So it's sort of like we also have the meetup, which should be the weekend of the 16th, 17th, 18th, and that's in Nazaré. So that's all this. So if you happen to be a TRI alum and you want to come and hang out with us, we'll be in Nazaré that weekend, 16th through 18th. It should be a really nice get together. I think there's about 30 or 40 of us, so pretty good. Somebody's saying subtitles not available, maybe on replay. Goodbye, everyone. Oh, Chris, do you know whether we can turn subtitles on YouTube? What's a good point there, Yannick? Chris says subtitles aren't available live, only after. So sorry there, Yannick. There's not much I can do about that, but if anything, I actually do talk really fast. So, well, I don't know whether it's really fast or really slow. I know a lot of people actually watch these videos at like 1.5 times, 2 times speed after the fact. And it actually makes watching my content and learning from me actually a lot easier, because I end up babbling on endlessly about nothing, about, Nazaré and their beaches and their go-kart parks. And one time I was walking down the road and I actually looked down and I saw this blade of grass that was kind of interesting colored. It was like green and sort of a little bit brown. And then actually I looked up and there was a dog crossing the street, and the dog had actually funny hair. It was like really wiry, but then the dog looked at me and sort of, it was like he was about to say something, but then he just carried on his way. Then he went by this fire hydrant. He lifted his leg up and Actually, I got to watch him take a piss on a fire hydrant. So anyway, what were we talking about? I can't remember. So, anyway, the point is it's actually not bad to actually watch me after the fact, and then as I'm heading off on some crazy ass tangent, you can just sort of hit the fast forward button, and then you can get okay. Now he's actually talking about charts, so there you go, and yeah, and use my referral code, ring Colleen's bell. Only half of you guys gave me a like. Is that the other half of you over there? You really don't like me very much? Oh, God, I guess you guys are killing me. Anyway, everybody hit the like button, please. Hugs and kisses. Hey, Richard does 1.75 times speed. So what happens if I slow down to this speed? All right, what's this? Zurikella asked, hi, when do you open enrollment to the new term of the school? So that's actually a pretty good, this is a pretty good question. On the site, we have our banner whenever the school is about to open up. We put this banner right up top here, so you can click on this banner and it will tell you exactly next term starts September 19th. You can see the enrollment opens in 15 days. So we have to have the actual draw done before that 15 days starts. So 1 week, 2 weeks. So there you are. So you can see 15 days exactly right there. Bang. So I think what we're going to try and do is we're actually going to try and have that raffle on that 16th, 17th, 18th. Chris, are we going to try and do a broiler chicken show on that Sunday, the 18th? That would probably be a pretty good one to do. I don't know whether I can really comment too much about price action and what's going on. It, you know, I'll be lucky if I'm face down in a ditch through most of this trip. But I'll give it the old college try. And what I would suggest you do is just pop on the site, hit that link like I showed you. If you want to do the 30-day trial, totally awesome. You know, take advantage of us. That's the whole point of this. There's no shill here. Really, the only shill that we have is all I want you to do is just load up this page. Don't even have to read this. Just go down here and just both listen to what other people have had to say about TRI's education program and just read what our veterans have said about us. This is by far the best sales pitch possible. There really is no other sales pitch. So that means enrollment started? Well, no. So what we do is, you know, we just ask people like join the wait list. And then what'll end up happening is that sort of builds like a list of people for that week. Once the enrollment starts, this kicks off. Then all of the people that are on this list, they will be basically invited. And also through this week, this sign up week, David will be sending out sort of summary emails. You also get like the daily briefs sent to you, you know, just as sort of like a reminder. And then that way it gives everybody like a solid week window to sign up for the program. That's the way the marketing department's asked to put this together. And it is the way that we've done it. I don't know whether it's the good way or bad way, up way, down way. It seems to have worked. So there you go. And like I said, I mean, really what I want to see is I want to see you guys all sign up for this. And then I want you to win the raffle. And we basically give away the level 1 program to somebody every term. And what was weird is and I have to reiterate this, when we do the raffle spin, you got to be on the call, because there was somebody who was in the raffle and they won, and I never heard from them. We sent like messages out and the whole thing, and it was kind of a bummer. So you got to be on the call. So if you are going to try and sign up for the free raffle, you got to be here for these weekend shows. All right. I don't know whether I explained that well or not, but long and short of it here, enrollment opens in 15 days officially. And the person who was asking, who was that? Zurikela. What I would ask you to do is just pop on the site, do the 30-day free trial, and then you're here, right? Become part of the community. We have a really cool sort of general chat room that I think it's a lot of our alumni like to stick around. They enjoy the community. They enjoy the conversation. I think on balance, we try and keep the politics out of the conversation, although, in anything in life, politics always seems to sneak its way in a little bit. But, we're really sort of positively oriented. Of course, don't get Brian started about my political leaders in my country. Then the PMA might go right out the window. But nonetheless, if anything, positive mental attitude, we have to be very thankful that we even have the ability to express how we feel. So thank you very much, Big Brother. I mean, hell, if this was downtown Beijing, downtown Moscow, and I said half of the things about their dear leaders, as I do about my dear leader here in this country, it'd probably be a nice cell in a concentration camp for me, well, nice and ready for me. And that's just the way that it would be. So I have to be extremely thankful that we live in the society that we do. Having said that, unfortunately, they always say being a I've done several IQ tests, and I'm not tooting my own horn. I couldn't give a shit, but my IQ's in like the 140s, and I think that's just because I happen to have a pretty big vocabulary. A lot of those IQ tests are all about words and associations and stuff. But I'll tell you one thing. Being this wonderfully brilliant person that I am, my dad, he was engineering physics. So if you understand university degrees, that's one of the toughest degrees to get. And my mother was a math major. So you can imagine these are really popular people at cocktail parties. But I don't know whether being as intelligent as I am actually has really served me very well in this life, to be honest with you. It gives you sort of that kind of grandiose kind of view. And unfortunately, what it means is like, the real unfortunate part about this is what it means is that I understand things like, let's see. Of course, whenever I try to find these damn tweets off this, off of my cuff, it never works. Darn it. Anyway, I thought I had it right here. Anyway, I understand the sort of the game that goes on with our money supply and who's actually running our society, and the banksters and all that crap. Most of the people in the public, they just don't understand it, and they never will. And if anything, like I said, it's almost better that they don't, right? Because it's so depressing when you actually know the truth. So, like interesting here, just last week, the Bank of Canada comes out and they start making these grandiose claims that actually they're not the ones responsible for the hyperinflation that my country's going through. And it's like, you got to be kidding me. And they're saying, we want to put the record straight on printing money claim. Well, you bloody idiots. The good part about it is TradingView. Keep in mind that for the longest time, you'd actually have to listen to whatever the Bank of Canada told you was the truth. So great part about sites like TradingView is there's the truth. Bank of Canada, that's your Canadian money supply right there. You can't fake that. You just can't. But the data is the data is the data. And this is the interesting world that we're potentially moving into, is that a lot of these kind of bureaucracies and, like JP Morgan 100 years ago defending, did we lose the internet connection there? No, we're still connected. All right. They didn't really have to worry about the public actually knowing what the truth was. I found it fascinating that in American politics, there was one guy who was very anti-crypto. It was this bald representative out of the great state of California, and he made some attacks on crypto a few years ago, and he was like the chairman of one of these committees or whatever in Congress, and he took so much shit from crypto because they had the truth, so they exposed all of his shady dealings and all of his graft and kickbacks and stuff that he's been committed over the years, and he quickly shut the hell up. So this is the irony of it all, is that, these guys are actually trying to do that kind of thing where they could come out and sort of bully the public. But hey, I'm sorry, Mr. Bank of Canada, whoever this mindless drone is. And this is the worst part about this, is that these people that work for these central banks, they're all the middlemen. And they don't even really understand the big picture of what the hell's going on in the world and the whole idea of Jekyll Island. And, this is where the Money Masters videos, guys, they are so, so cool. And it's such a great resource to have out of your back pocket. I thought I just had it there, but let's see if this loads up. It'd actually be interesting. You just search Twitter for Money Masters. I wonder what comes up. Do you actually even see that video? So just a whole bunch of fluff. Look at all this cartoon characters and stuff. But I'll tell you, this is where an economist gets himself into a little bit of trouble. But you want to see sexy? I will show you sexy. The only problem is I don't know where the hell it is. It was in reply to all this. And it was in with this as well. So I'm not quite sure why those aren't attached. But if you really want to know what's going on, very simply put, why would Brian make a claim that the explosion of the M2 money supply is actually what's causing this inflation? And it's not Brian. This is a Nobel laureate. Oh, there's fancy schmancy. Milton Friedman. He's basically the money supply is inflation. Fantastic education. But the problem here, of course, 5 minutes into this, and most of the woke society members today, they're going to fall asleep. They will literally be put to sleep. And the banksters know this. And they basically depend on the fact that really this stuff is just, sadly, it's too beyond the public. Here he is, Mr. This is what I want to show you. Seriously, if you want to understand the money system and understand the world that we live in, this is it right here. What is his name? Bill Still? Is that what his name is? I was kidding. I think I said that the other day. I said, that's his name? Really? Bill Still? But this guy, if there was any, this guy like a rock star of economics, that's this guy. He's about one of the only guys who's actually going to try and tell you the truth of how deep this goes, how conspiratorial it is, and how literally this is in essence the framework of modern day financial slavery. It's really that simple. So somebody over there is saying, Brian, did you think Europe's going to be any better? Absolutely not. But one thing that's interesting about Europe right now is I believe that there were 3 or 4 countries that hit the brick wall there 5-10 years ago. And once the country hits the brick wall that they just can't borrow anything more from the banksters, then the banksters let the whole damn thing all just collapse. And I think that that's what they've done in certain areas of Europe. And the collapse literally means that the hyperinflation of prices that you see here in the West, it's not happening there. Why? Because there is no big debt bubble going on. They already burst. They already went bankrupt. So I believe that there is a massive price discrepancy. And frankly speaking, I don't really want to leave the lower mainland. My son has to stay here because of all his medical conditions. And he is a citizen of Canada. He has every right to all those medical services. So I certainly don't want to deny him that by uplifting him out of here. So to all intents and purposes, I would actually prefer to stay here in Canada. But for Joe Sixpack working schlub like me, this country is a train wreck. And the worst part about it is that it is the ultimate definition of the emperor's new clothes. And this will keep going on until somebody says boo. And I think, as I've said repeatedly, if you understand these gentlemen and his argument of the way the bank system operates, it actually has to go through this hyperinflationary process about once every 80 years, or the whole banking system starts to fall apart. It's just that simple. So the interesting thing here is the banks lend the governments money. The governments make promises to the electorate. The only way that the politicians can get reelected in our society is to make promises that really are completely unrealistic, basically lying to the public. And the banks will continue financing these over expenditures until the point where the gross debt of the society is greater than the servicing ratio of the economy itself. And that's about 100 to 130% debt to GDP. So as soon as your debt load gets a certain size relative to the size of the economy, though there is no more money lending. So you either find another stable asset to use as your currency base, and then that becomes the collateral that you use to finance the next big debt bubble cycle. And that's basically what happened at the end of the First World War, Second World War kind of idea, where the banking system abandoned the European currencies and adopted the US dollar. They say that Jekyll Island was sort of the official handoff. That was 1913. And you could argue that the whole boom in the 1920s set the public up. They borrowed immensely. Then they all got wiped out in the crash. And of course, the banks just zoomed in, took over. And that is the monetary system that we live in. To solve the Great Depression, Mr. Roosevelt came along, told the banks, okay, you can officially inflate the economy, 10x. And it explains if you, so they expand the economy 10x, then that old debt that was actually bigger than the economy, if the economy expands 10x, i.e. they just go and print a whole bunch of money, boom, all of a sudden now the economy is 10 times the size it was. Kind of like the image that you see here. I mean, interesting for Canada. You could argue that back in the this is a great analogy. Have you ever seen those websites? What happened in 1971, right? And that here is 1971. So you can clearly see as of 1971, the monetary base just was absolutely went crazy. And now we live in a world where we're basically going parabolic. But the key here is, what is that 10x ratio, right? So if this base is like 2000, well, 200 billion. Well, what a surprise. 2 trillion, that's 10x. The only problem here, though, is that the doofuses, of course, continue to more and more and more and more debt. I'm not even exactly sure what the debt to GDP is for Canada. Actually, that might be an interesting question. Let's just go see. Canada debt to GDP. Just the current ratio, it's probably about 100. And anytime, so here we have a ratio of GDP gross debt was 129% in 2020. I don't know how we're doing now, but as I said to you earlier, we get up into that 100 to 130 area. This is where problems start to happen. And it explains why the money supply is being so exploded higher here. And frankly speaking, I don't think they're done by a long shot, which is so depressing, right? Because it literally means like, man, you're, poor people in well, if you consume vice in this world, oh boy, are you in trouble. Like cigarettes down in Australia, $50 a pack. They're like more expensive out in the public than they are in the prison systems. And in the prison, they're used as currency. Oh God, what a crazy world. Anyway, houses going up, car prices going up, rents going up, food's going up. It's not because the food is more valuable. It's not because of supply chain issues. It is because they are printing money like a drunken whore. Whether a drunk whore could operate a printing press, but what the hell? And the assets, they have to stay the same. I mean, a loaf of bread is a loaf of bread is a loaf of bread. So just to keep the value of the loaf of bread, the price has to go up because the actual physical amount of currency in the system is just exploding. And, the damn dear leader the other day goes, well, you know what? We're going to fund a gay and lesbian rights movement thing for $100 million. Well, where are you going to get the $100 million, sir? Are you going to raise taxes? Is that what you're going to do to get that? And that would be fine. You have a new, say, condom tax or, Vaseline tax that raises $100 million in revenue, and you earmark that for gay and lesbian rights movement. Sounds perfectly fine to me. There's nothing wrong with that thinking whatsoever. But his response is, well, we don't have the money. We're just going to turn the printing presses on. There you go. See, there's $100 million. Wasn't that easy? Boom, funded. Economics doesn't work that way, doofus. And unfortunately, the Canadian economy is finding out that if you have a substitute drama teacher who's, literally, hey, I want $100 million. There's a printing press. Look, there's a whole bunch of little blank currency things. All I got to do is just turn it on for half an hour and boom, there's $100 million. Geez, that was easy. Hell, I don't even need to win the majority of the populace to pull this off either. Substitute drama teacher for the win, baby. And of course, the finance minister and the deputy premier. Do you have any experience whatsoever working in the finance industry, dear? No. Oh, you'd be perfect finance minister. Hey, this is you can't write this stuff any better. And as I said before, the only solution, the only way out of this problem for these doofuses is they have to explode the economy. Like literally, the economy has to just be like a tenfold increase in size. And then that way, the old debt is not such a huge percentage of the new economy. Then the end result of that is, of course, we have price inflation. Now, this is assuming that they can even pull this off. Frankly speaking, I don't think they can pull this off. I think that if you are the world's hegemony currency, you could pull it off. And as long as there's no sort of, check to your power, fine. But you notice that is Canada the world's hegemony currency? I don't think so. What happened to some of the U.S. protectorate states when they said they needed bailouts when the Fed was bailing out the big U.S. banks there in 2008, 2009, 2010, 2011, 2012, 2013. And then, of course, through the COVID, I remember same damn thing. get people from Puerto Rico. We're a U.S. protectorate state. Can we get some help here? And like literally, the banksters are like, sorry, go away. Uh, an actual neighboring country that's not part of the United States, if we don't have our economic act together, I can tell you the American banking industry will destroy Canada. And I've actually gone through those kind of economies. I remember back in the early 1990s, Canada's house was falling apart. The credit rating of all of the Canadian provinces was horrible. The federal government's credit rating was collapsing, which meant that every time Canadians had to go and refinance, boom, they had to pay a higher interest rate, which meant, of course, more monthly payments, more money going into the big US banksters' pockets. And Canada had to do a major belt tightening there in the 1990s. It was so major that actually one of the provinces in the country actually tried to secede and tried to leave the country. And frankly speaking, I don't see any reason why all that scenario can't happen again. This stuff all moves in circles. And sadly, there's even people that have publicly come out and said that the damage that this guy has done to our economy, it's going to take a good 30 years to recover from this. So anyway, there it is. The point here is that I was actually talking to somebody in Ontario today, and he said that, gee whiz, everything's still booming there. So the Emperor's clothes is still on. Nobody said boo. I'm a bit surprised that the rise in interest rates hasn't started to eat into the developers' plans. But in a weird sort of way, that's exactly what Mr. Powell wants to stop. He desperately, and you can see in his statements nowadays, 8% inflation is unacceptable. We have to kill demand here. And so my hunch is that the Fed just keeps raising rates until the whole damn thing breaks. But the problem is Brian's usually right, but he's usually early. I don't know how long this is going to take. All I'm going to say is 2022, 2023, Benner cycle. I'm not overly bullish through this part of the cycle. And if anything, of course, as we've sort of seen in the markets, I find it fascinating that, of course, through this part of the cycle now, Big Brother, and it's super important that you guys understand this, right? If you're going to take away anything from today's broadcast, just understand this. And actually, why don't we'll do this as a trivia question. Fill in the blank here. Institutions and institutional players buy, fill in the blank, what types of markets? Do institutional players, do Joey Diamonds, do the parade of Goldman Sachs yahoos, sadly the non what the hell is that guy's name? Michael Saylor guys. I do not believe Michael Saylor was a institutional player. I think he was a public figure, and I think he just got his head handed to him. Bad investing. But institutions buy, and I see most of you have said it, so that's good. They buy down markets. Now, if you wanted to buy 1 million Bitcoins, you're an institutional player. Keep in mind, these guys got deep pockets. How do we get you to sell them 1 million Bitcoins? I mean, I don't have 1 million Bitcoins. I got like 1 Bitcoin. Great. Adam, I know you got 1 Bitcoin. Samari, you've got 0.5 Bitcoin. KOS, you've got 3 Bitcoins. Paul, he's got 7 Bitcoins. But how many of us is it going to take to be sellers for Joey Diamond to buy his 1 million Bitcoins? It's going to take a lot of us. Do you get how? I mean, first and foremost, and if you don't get this, there's not a heck of a lot I can do to help you. But I sure hope you've listened to me ranting on and on and on. Okay, sure, again. Every time I see this on the screen, it drives me nuts. So I got to take a second here and delete this. What time is it? 11:30. I have to head off to Liam here in about an hour. So FYI, the video shall end then. But every time I see this, I was doing the video up yesterday for the Rumble thing. And if you're watching this, I would appreciate if you could go over and just sign up. I don't think it costs you anything, but if you could just go and sign up on this this Rumble site. I think this is it here. And I need 100 subscribers to be able to do this on Rumble as opposed to YouTube. So let's see, 53 now. Hey, that's kind of cool. We got about 30 or 40% further along here. So we've crossed the 50 threshold. Anyway, I did a cute little sort of Bitcoin overview summary. I'm sure probably nobody liked it. When you actually do like real videos and you're like, hey, that's a buy. And, number one, most people can't buy buys. And then number two, when the market does go zooming up and everybody wants to buy, that's of course when you tell people you can't buy, right? So most of my videos are like, they're the exact opposite of this whole sort of public shill nonsense that gets these public promoters into trouble. So if anything, that's the reason why I'm not mentioned, hopefully, knock on wood. All right, where were we? So if you happen to be on that Rumble site, if you happen to be, or, if you want to just pop on over there, sign up. As soon as we get 100 people that have signed up to this channel, and I put the channel link up higher, probably about a half hour, 45 minutes ago in the video, but I'll put it in there again. And maybe we could even, Chris, if you could maybe even throw that in the comments thing on YouTube, there is the link. I think you already had it from before anyway, though. But maybe we could put it in the comments. I don't know whether is that going to piss YouTube off? I don't know. Anyway, the point of the matter here is let's get that above 100 so we can do this off of the there. But anyway, okay, so back to our story, blah, blah, blah. If you don't know that Bitcoin trades in these cycles, oh man, there's not much I can do to help you. And what's fascinating about this is actually these cycles are stunningly cliche. So, we've all been through a couple of these now. And as I kind of, the guy I was speaking to this morning, I kind of said to him, look, you've been through these things twice. So third time's the charm. Let's not let this third one slip through our fingers. And he's like, damn straight, Brian. So the point that I would just make, and I'm not even quite sure why I don't have, I think the BLX has more data on this. This is just a stamp. But anyway, hopefully you can see that, as soon as we get into these cycle halvening, pre-halvening sort of windows here, that's when you really want to load up on your Bitcoins. It's pretty straightforward. It's pretty simple. So going all the way back here. And of course you see this and you go, oh my God, I wish I had done that. But anyway, there's your halvening. Could you have loaded up here on Bitcoin at around 20, 30 bucks a coin? Well, there was 250, so there's 10x. And then this thing ultimately topped out at about 1200. Oh my goodness, I don't even know how many X's that is. So then you wait for the next cycle to calm down, right? And Simon Dixon, 70, 80% correction in the Bitcoin price. That's probably when you want to step back in. It's common sense. Reload zones, as that Beamish guy he loves to bark about. You want to wait for your weekly W's. This is a weekly price chart, nice big fat weekly W's. There is the halvening event window. You can force yourself to come in and start accumulating through here. Woohoo! There's a big old rally. Yeah, just sit there for a year or two to get your 100x. Is it worth it? I think so. What's the price here? $300 bucks. 2020. Yep, just about 100x. Yeah. So here we go again. 70, 80% correction. There's the next halvening event. Let it come in. You want to wait for the weekly W's? Fine. So be it. Interesting how through this dump period, Actually, and especially after this, and this kind of the cautionary note I have for everybody is I get the feeling we're in this kind of environment right now. And I think you even notice like right now, if we look at the price itself, right? Yeah, we're just bumping along here. If I zoom this out to like a 4-hour chart, there is that low that we put in. That's all the way back in June now. Oh my goodness, that's forever ago. And all we're doing, like with all this bearish price structure and A, B, C, Ds and the whole 9 yards, all we're doing is we're just going to come down and basically just test that low. I mean, that's all this is. So, I like to call this the market stair stepping its way down the hill. And remember I said there earlier, Joey Diamond, he buys down markets because he knows all this shit. I mean, this isn't rocket science. So, we look at the price action. This was the last cycle, 70-80%. Wait for your W's if you want. You want to throw in bullish momentum divergences. Okay, fine. So, we do the whole damn thing all over again. So a big run up, should you have bought ahead of that halving cycle? Looks like it. In this particular one, I remember there was one guy on the site. Oh my God, he did the most beautiful buy right in here. He loaded up on Bitcoins right off of that reload zone tag right there. And I mean, look at that trade. That's boss trading. I mean, Jesus, that's what you're all here to learn how to try and do. So here we are working our way down. And as I said in that Rumble video, and of course, I've been talking lots about this recently, this actually looks to me to be actually extremely cliche. Harmonic pattern. So really, I would not suggest fighting this harmonic pattern. There's A, B, C, D. I would be shocked if Bitcoin did not trade down to that D level. I would be absolutely shocked. After the fact, keep in mind that your next halving event's over there. Usually coming off of these highs, it's about 1 full year of shit. I hate to say it, folks. I think that's exactly what this is. Mr. Benner, if you come on our site, I think I don't know whether almost every single video I try to extol the site because the site is incredible. I mean, I've had people tell me that the library alone is worth the price of just our regular site subscription. There is so much information just in the third-party instructional videos. You could spend a month just watching these videos alone, and they have nothing to do with TRI. It's such an awesome repository of information that we've collected here. Hell, you could go back and watch all our crypto shows from Coinigy days. That's like 5 years ago. There must be 1,000 hours of video of watching, Bitcoin and shit coins and all that kind of crap. Last 2 cycles ago. Last cycle was the DeFi cycle. I'll get Sjord to talk about his Luna experience and Farmer Dave and all that. So just the point here is that this site is so valuable. It's ridiculous. Hell, you can come on the site and just our daily brief videos and the broiler chicken videos, right? There's got to be 10,000 hours of video here. I don't even know how many. See how many. Each one of these is like a 2-3 hour video, and there is 128 pages of these videos. Holy crap. That's ridiculous. So, we got more content than you can shake a stick at. But something that we've actually added, and it's totally free. You might as well take advantage of it. This is Mr. PMA, actually, who runs the Twitter public face of TRI. This guy right here. This guy here who's running this killer hedge fund. Oh, by the way, he also runs the blog. And look at this blog. Oh my God, this is insane. Anyway, on our blog, a lot of the research that we do through the year, this is a lot sort of like our public repository for the information. This is because, of course, it is an election year. And it's always interesting how this blog sort of sometimes loads, sometimes doesn't. It's kind of bizarre. Always, when you're right in the middle of doing a live presentation, that's of course the moment it doesn't load, right? That just makes common sense. Drive you crazy. Anyway, I was going to show you in an election year. Look at that gateway timed out. I don't know what it is. Obviously, somebody doesn't want us to show you this. I don't know whether somebody hacked the site or what. Hey, look there, it loaded. Now, why did it load there? Isn't that bizarre? Anyway, so this is what I wanted to show you. This is our S&P 500 midterm election year seasonal pattern and second year new Democrat president. We've been using this as a roadmap through the year, and I got to say, it's been pretty handy. So here we are, September. You can see there was a bit of a snapback rally in early September, but there is the election over there. So September ends lower right against those lows. Remember I was saying earlier that I thought that Bitcoin was doing nothing more than just going to go down and test those lows. Well, that's what I would expect here in September is we're going to come down. We're going to test those lows in earnest. There's going to be an attempt to try and hold those lows. And then I hate to say it, 2 weeks, week or so before the election, something's going to happen that's going to knock the whole damn market. And it looks like they actually want to take the market through those previous summer lows. So based on this, down, up, down, test those lows, then sort of a fake out. Yeah, we're going to try and rally it and then puke out to new lows. If we go back to the Bitcoin chart, that's kind of what I'm seeing here is there is that summer low. I think we're in the process right now of coming down and testing that low, probably like middle to the end of September. This sort of works its way down. September options expiry this particular month, first Friday, second Friday, third Friday. So on the 16th of September, this is going to be a huge options expiry event. Usually the March, June, September, and December contracts are the big institutional contracts. And I got a funny feeling that's going to be a pretty darn important event there. And then kind of like what that report showed you, wherever the hell it is, I think coming out of that options expiry, I think the market actually goes, okay, phew, that was pretty damn ugly. But hey, we're going to try and sort of put in some sort of base. Also, to remember that the U.S. Federal Reserve has said that they are, this is their next meeting window, middle to the end of September. We can probably find out exactly when that is. That's probably another one of these sort of big sort of, oh my God, sell the rumor, buy the news scenario. So September Fed, well, I guess I'll do FOMC meeting. Does it say when it is? Actually, this probably isn't the best place to look. Probably want to look on the interneting. FOMC September meeting is what today? September 20th to 21st. So wonderful. You can see that they're almost setting us up for some sort of big, horrendous blah. If anything, what I think probably happens here is we have the market is really, really soft into that options expiry event. And then we waffle, maybe counter trend rally into that 2021st. Maybe if anything, it'll be interesting to see whether they can take the market up on an up note or a down note into that options expiry. And then if they rally the market into the Fed, then that's a bad sign, because on the other side of it, and you guys all got a really good lesson in that a week or so ago, where this market was trying to work its way up. And it was exactly at this moment right here that Powell came out in Jackson Hole and said, we're going to shit on the world. And then boom, the whole market just tanked on that event. You can see that big honking wick. So there was a really good example of buy the rumor. And then he came out and spoke. And then, oh my God, the whole market just puked out the other side of it. So I think that's what happens into our FOMC coming up here is I think the market's going to be relatively weak into that options expiry. Then it's going to enjoy a bit of a dead cat bounce into that Fed event. Then he's going to come out and probably like 21st, 22nd, kind of, that's when you see the market react to what he said. And then boom, we head right back down into the soup. I think that sort of aligns with that image I was trying to show you there a second ago. This right here. So there's 16th. Maybe that's the 16th. Maybe we flounder around here with the Fed. It looks like into the end of the month, things look relatively okay. So I get the feeling Fed's going to meet. We're going to have like a knee-jerk dump following, just like I showed you just there after Powell spoke. But that's probably a bit of a trap. And they snap the market back, go after these stops. It'd be really interesting to see if Willie's stupidly oversold down in here. But the point here is you can see they're just messing around with these old lows. Then heading into October, they'll be like, okay, the lows held. It's a new bull market. And I think there's one more big FU into the October options expiry. And then also, too, this is all about the US election. And usually what ends up happening is the market will figure out who's going to want to win the election ahead of the event. And you would think, like, I think the election will be the first week or so of November. You would think that the market will be really soft into that event. But interestingly enough, I've seen this year in, year out. The market will dump about a week or so ahead of the election. And then once we get into that sort of week or so prior to the election, people will stop thinking about the stock market and they'll be entirely concentrated on politics. And I also think to a certain degree that this will be sort of and this is sort of, Brian putting his neck in the noose. I believe that this event here will be the end of the socialist push in the United States of America. Once this event happens, I believe that the right wing will take over the Congress, which I think is exactly what the banksters want. They have gone through the process of inflating the economy. You can't make the argument that the economy needs that massive stimulus anymore. That's ironically enough, the whole money printing and all that kind of stuff. I mean, our politician here in Canada, he's basically taking Canada the route of Venezuela and Zimbabwe and stuff like that. And if anything, he's got to understand that this is not sustainable. And ironically enough, the only reason why this really got going in earnest, as you can see in 2008, there is the great financial crisis. And we've been living in this environment since. And the irony of all of this is that Canada never did have a housing crisis. So this is all bullshit. This should have never happened in Canada. Not one bit. Should not have happened at all. The only reason why this did happen, and this I think is the smoking gun, is that Canada, of course, is owned by the Rothschilds, as well as the ECB is basically owned by the Rothschilds, as well as the Bank of Japan, the princes of Japan. Following the end of the Second World War, the Bank of Japan's owned by the Rothschilds. And now, since 1913 in Jekyll Island, the U.S. Federal Reserve is owned by the Rothschilds. So this is, you hear fucking Powell and you hear all the central bankers going, well, this inflation issue is a global phenomenon. Well, it really isn't. It is a phenomenon that's happening in all of the Rothschilds controlled central banks, which just so happens to be about 80 to 90% of the world's GDP now. A country like Nigeria, they're not going to be able to say boo to the Rothschilds. It's fascinating to see Vladdy over there in Eastern Europe. He's trying desperately right now to say no to the Rothschilds. And the Rothschilds are saying, well, you know what? We're going to bankrupt you in Ukraine. So go figure. Anyway, point here is I think that this is actually the smoking gun of the Rothschilds controlling the world economy. Because Canada never did have a housing crisis. There is no reason why Canada should have done this to its money supply, unless Canada is somebody else's bitch, which I definitely think is the case. There you go. Boom. Wonderful. All right, so where were we? Good old Bitcoin. Bitcoin. Now, just in the short term, I've talked to you guys at length, of course, about these longer term cycles. This is inevitable. In fact, you want just a nice simple rule. You want something to write down. It's going to make your life so much easier. Whenever you hear somebody say, but this time it's different, then it's exactly the same as every other time. And what I find in capitalism, of course, is that the guys that can step in down here, nobody's really interested in Bitcoin down here. I know, obviously, all of our audience, we're all rah Bitcoin, right? But nobody's really that interested in the public. Then is there some sort of tell that the public is starting to get interested in this story? And sadly, because I really like his work, I think he does excellent job. But sadly, our buddy Remy is actually a really good, I don't know how you spell it. Is that R-E-M-Y? Or is it R-E-M-I? This guy here, although I probably completely butchered the spelling of his name. Does it actually say? Oh no, that's not what I want. Along with Remy. So this is something completely different. But let me see if I can find his name. I mean, I love the guy dearly. I think the funny videos as hell. But I got to tell you, this guy is the absolute perfect contrarian indicator. I've never seen a better contrarian indicator than this guy, which is kind of sad because I think he has the best intentions. I just think he knows how to gauge the pulse of the market. Damn it, of course I can't find it. It always happens. And I think he's just feeding the market exactly what the market wants to hear. And, he does the work. I'm not going to be able to find it. Damn it. No. Where the hell is that? Wait a second. Darn it. Because I even put out a tweet just saying, I love the guy's work. Totally awesome. Oh, here it is right here. All right. So Remy, R-E-M-Y. So that's why I couldn't find it. But fascinating. Check this out. Dogecoin. I mean, like literally put out his video and is funny as hell. Great video. And I mean, let's see how many hits he got. 672,000 views. So, I mean, you just do the Google reference. How close was the Dogecoin top to the release of this video? I mean, it's almost shocking how close it is. So anyway, the point of the matter here is, funny, great videos, beautiful, absolutely beautiful contrarian indicator. So what is Mr. Remy coming out with? And he also did it on Bitcoin, right? The Bitcoin billionaire, same thing. Literally nailed the top of the market. Absolutely perfect. So the question you have to ask yourself is he barking about cryptocurrencies right now? I don't think so. What is he barking about? He's barking about inflation. So Question I would have for you. He nailed the top on Bitcoin 1718. Nailed it. Nailed the top on Dogecoin just a year or so ago. So you tell me, what do you think the odds are as a, he's just a member of the public. He's a musician. He's an artist. Do you think he's actually a trader by trade? I doubt it, because most of us traders are not really very visually agreeable, fat, bald, ugly, whatever. I mean, this guy's pretty handsome, right? Probably gets a lot of girls, right? So what do you think the odds are that we actually hit the top of the inflation cycle there? So it's interesting because this is exactly going back to our blog where you can learn how to trade for free. I can't believe this blog is for free, you lucky bastards. And, if you're watching this video for the first time, pop on the website. I mean, this site is so bloody awesome. I mean, we give you a 30-day trial. If you really wanted to take advantage of it, it's bad karma, but hey, people do it all the time. You could just come and just constantly renew your 30-day trial. You won't get access to all the really cool, fun candy that we offer inside the, behind the paywall with all our research tools. But you can come on and read the blog and participate in the videos for 30-day trial. So anyway, just the interesting thing is going back full circle. This is this same report that we put out with the election year and the January barometer year. This is a report done by, God, I can't even remember the guy's name now. But anyway, Larry Williams, who does videos, and I like listening to Larry. I think he's got a pretty good head on his shoulders. It's called the Decennial Report, and it's just what does typical years that end in twos look like? And I've told you guys repeatedly that recessions usually happen, and let's see if you guys on YouTube can jump through a hoop, or anybody even in the hangout here. Recessions usually happen in years that end in what, and what? And are we in one of those whats? Yes, we are. I mean, it's so cliche how this shit is so bloody cliche. So the rule is recessions usually happen. I see somebody says 2 there. Recessions usually happen in years that end in 8s, 9s, 0s, 1s, and 2s. So here we are. We're in at 2. 8, 1, 0, 1, and 2. 8. There you go. Good job. Nice. Set your watch to this. And the good part about it is we're coming out the backside of the 2. So does that mean that maybe we're almost through the worst of this shit? I sure hope so. I think what ends up actually happening here is kind of like what you see here, is we are going to form some sort of base here in the marketplace. And then we're actually going to rally smartly out the other side. And I think this is following the election, kind of like what you see here. Once the election is done, you can see the market really rally smartly out the other side. Does it not make sense that maybe if the Republicans win down, say, in the House or maybe even the Senate, just, they balance the tables a little bit in the US government, that all this crazy ass, ridiculous fucking woke spending and all that, remember that Cortez doofus? Maybe our dear leader here in Canada is going to see the writing on the walls and he's going to be like, you know what, we got to be a little bit more fiscally responsible for our citizens. Please. Sorry. But interesting, years that end in 2 actually finished fairly strong. And what was fascinating about this report that Mr. Williams put together at the beginning of the year was his thought was that the reason why the market was tanking the first half of the year was because, of course, of runaway inflation. And it just didn't seem like there was any end in sort of the peak. I don't know whether you've noticed oil prices, but technically crude oil prices are now actually back below what they were last February. So if we start doing year-over-year comparisons now, you're actually going to find that the year-over-year comparison for crude oil prices is going to be negative. And of course, this is exactly what the Fed wants. They want to get control of this damn inflation problem. But Mr. Williams said here, what's going to end up happening is, we're going to get the news that, the Fed's gotten in front of the inflation curve and the stock market's going to rally. And so now the question you have to ask yourself is, does it make sense, you as a smart trader, to look at this gentleman as a contrarian indicator? What is the public thinking about right now? Do you understand this? The public is always wrong, always. Do you see how this gentleman is the public? And do you see how the public, they're freaked fucking out by inflation right now? That is all I ever hear about. But I might actually make the argument that that's actually an old story. That's not a story going forward. And I also might make the argument that you've heard talk. I mean, that's a guy hell-bent on bringing inflation into check. And thank heavens, it's about fucking time. But I would argue that this is the inflation and the price problems that you see in our society today are the end result of something that was started back 10 years ago. The inflation is not being caused by Vladimir Putin. He is the end result, and what you see happening in Ukraine, that is the end result expression of a process that started 10 bloody years ago. And the irony of it all, like I said, is that Canada itself had no business whatsoever going into the money printing business. None. There was no great financial crisis here in this country. There wasn't. And you see what the housing market's doing here. Why are houses? I mean, the typical Canadian cannot afford to live in a Canadian house right now. What does that mean? Does that mean that all the Canadians must leave the country and we're going to only import millionaires that can afford to live in this country? Does that even make sense? How about the millennial generation who are growing up here and they're actually, and I don't know where the hell that damn M2 money supply picture went, but how does a millennial growing up here now look at a house that's like $1 million and say, oh yeah, that's affordable. I can afford that on a barista's income. Or maybe I'm just getting it. I mean, it'd be interesting just to do what is the average annual earnings. Anyway, I go down this rabbit hole of Canadian economics, and it drives me crazy. And I lose like half an hour, so I should probably shut the hell up. You guys have heard the rant, so you know the story. Okay, so the point here is into the election. I think our lives are going to be a bit challenging. Coming outside the other side of the election, I think that a lot of the pressures in our society will actually relieve, because and this is just my hunch, crystal ball, put your neck in the noose. I actually think there's going to be checks and balances reintroduced into the US fiscal system. And I believe that the Republicans are going to take over a bit of the US government, which should balance things out a little bit. And we don't have just this runaway money printing inflation spiral going forward. And I think the stock markets, a la Larry Williams' prognostication, why this rally is going to happen, I believe it's because, number one, also think of it this way, and I don't know whether you're aware of this. If you aren't, write it down. But markets hate one-directional governments. Absolutely hate it. Markets love minority governments. And this is the one thing that I think has really bothered me immensely about this country of Canada. Is technically right now we have a minority government, and yet this guy's running around acting like a despot. And it scares me because Adolf Hitler only got 40% of the electoral vote. And you saw what he did to the country of Germany. So he was technically a minority leader. And how the hell did he pull off what he pulled off? So it scares you that this guy didn't even get 40% of the vote. I think he got like 35% of the vote. And for some reason, he's basically running around this country like he's whatever he says, go. And if you don't agree with him, off to the concentration camp you go. Scary times we live in, I'll tell you that much, by crackers. Anyway, so I do believe that little despot here in my country is going to get a big slap in the face here come November, that you're going to see that the socialist movement, I actually think, hit its zenith here. And interestingly enough, as we go forward in time, I believe that people are going to say that Mr. Powell actually was the one who killed Vladimir Putin, not any rocket or not any Ukrainian. It's going to be Mr. Powell and his increase in interest rates that are going to kill the world economy and are going to drive up the cost of borrowing dramatically. And frankly speaking, I don't know what happens to a country like Canada through that. We will see. Only time will tell. Okay, what I'm supposed to be doing here today, believe it or not, and I hope through all of that, you got sort of an idea of what I'm thinking about for Bitcoin. Because that's, primarily what you guys are interested in here. So my apologies if it was just way too political and stuff. But man, we live in very, very tough times right now. So for whatever it's worth, and I did talk a little bit about this in the free video on that Rumble, but I also talked a bit about this in Friday's daily brief. I think there's actually two bearish chart patterns working on this chart. The first one is fairly large. It's basically this as an AB. And then if you clone that, CD, this takes us down into these levels. So you can see a higher time frame, 88.6, higher time frame bought target, higher time frame 2.618 Foggenbaum. There's a couple 877 Foggenbaums down here as well. I think there's a very high probability that we have to trade down into this area. I also like this area as a cost of production. That to me resonates. Maybe we get some stab. The guy that I was speaking to this morning, one time in the past, he threw in a whole bunch of really stinky bids on one of these Bitcoin exchanges, and he got absolute gift fills because the market just absolutely tanked. If I understand correctly, there's a whole bunch of Mt. Gox coins that are coming free. So you might find that there's a whole bunch of people that are just going to be knee-jerk selling those coins as they hit the public. I don't know what the fundamental driver is. It might be Mr. SEC guy. He drops the hammer on crypto or something along those lines. I mean, I'm not going to get into the business of predicting the future. All I'm going to say is I do have some pretty good technical targets down in this area. And I like this as sort of our ultimate base for Bitcoin. There's that 2.618. Some 877s, that's the bought target, and that's an 88.6 off of the whole range, and we love 88.6 tags. We can throw up the S19s, S17s, S21s, cost of mining rigs. They're also down in this area too. So I like that as sort of a fundamental driver for price to get down. Remember we said institutions buy down markets. So as we come into these levels that Simon Dixon says, this is a no-brainer. This is when you're supposed to be buying Bitcoins. Of course, what a surprise. We're going to have all those Mt. Gox coins coming onto the market. Anybody who's still in there and finally wants to get released, they're going to be selling into those weak prices. And frankly speaking, I think that's a mistake. And the guy that I was speaking to this morning, I said, if you can, somehow take those coins off. Hey, you've just sat there for 8 years waiting. Why can't you wait just a couple more years? At the very least, maybe wait for the next halving event, and we're back into the orgy mode in Bitcoin, and then start selling. I mean, what's another year or two? We all know, another sort of aside, and actually this is the real reason why I brought the blog up to begin with. But we all know, and maybe if you don't, maybe you should school yourself. We all know that, let's see, there it is, that 2022, 2023 is a shitty time for the markets. This is the Benner cycle. This was written, 200 years ago. And he forecasted that 2022, 2023, the market actually troughs in 2023. Then I put out sort of comparison. What did I think was this troughing sort of going to look like? And just compared the past couple of cycles. Did up a cute little tweet a little while ago. I don't see any reason why this should be any different. Let's see where the hell that is. Do. God, how long ago was that? And here somewhere. There it is. And actually, this is the video that I did for that Rumble site. I don't see any reason why this should look any differently. And I guess more importantly, you don't really see this on this site, is what I actually think is, there's a number of different ways that this market can bottom. Probably over the long haul, it's going to look like some big honking W. I don't think that our bottom is going to look like this. Usually the most recent cycle, right? People are looking at this cycle. Oh, this is what the bottom is going to look like. And it never does, right? They say history rhymes, but it doesn't repeat. I actually think the bottom is going to look something like this, where 2000, in this particular case, 2014 was just crap. And then 2015 is your base. I think this is the period where most of the public is going to completely lose interest in crypto. Of course, we said institutions buy down markets, so institutions are going to be accumulating. We know the next halving event is coming up. There's no stopping it. And interestingly enough, you can see coming out of 2015, that was basically your breakout. This was like November 2015. I got to say, I think that's exactly what our future looks like for the next. So the worst part about it is, right, you say, where is September? There's September right there. So this is what the next year or two in our lives looks like. And you can see that literally, and I've told a lot of people this, you're probably going to see the price of Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies go down a lot between now and next year. But 1 year from now, I bet dollars to donuts, the price of Bitcoin is almost exactly where it is today. And we've gone through that trough. You'll look back, you'll see the big honking weekly W that comes in through 2023 and coming out 2023, like Mr. Benner says. In particular, I mean, it's interesting that this is the Benner cycle. And you can make the argument here, this is really not necessarily just Benner, it's just all sort of speculative assets. And of course, back then, the only thing, and he wrote this back in like the 1820s, you didn't even really invest in stocks back then. Back then, if you invested in stocks, it was like you had to trade against guys like Jay Gould. And take our educational program, we'll teach you all about Mr. Gould and what a wonderful capitalist he was. But the point here is for guys like Benner, the actual speculative property or speculative asset that you should buy is real estate, say corner lots. So C, which is down here, 2023, years of hard times, low prices, good time to buy stocks, but really corner lots, think corner lots, goods, etc., and then hold on to them through the boom, right? And I think that, of course, here is China's Belt and Road Initiative. I still think they're going to try and sort of maintain that 5-year communist plan. I don't know, maybe China breaks apart, but I don't think so. I think they're going to muddle their way through this with all their citizens basically have no rights and they're locked in their prison cells. I actually saw on the TRI site, somebody posted what life in China is like right now. And fuck me, if this is paradise, if this is the future of humanity, man, I don't know, man. It's not good. I mean, is this really what we have to look forward to? Where some drone is like literally outside your window barking orders and you're locked in your prison cell? And they've got a nice little camera and they're just watching you. Is that what humanity is moving towards? This is what happens when you let dear leaders and totalitarian dictators take over. This is literally what society is going to turn into. So please, for God's sakes, people, let's not let our society in the West go this way. But in essence, we know that the mafia is in control of China. We know that they have a real estate bubble that has popped. We know that the mafia has stolen like hundreds of billions of dollars from their citizens. So what a surprise. The way that they're going to try and get their way through is they are literally locking their hundreds of millions of citizens in their prison cells. And this is the way that they're going to get through the crisis. Horrible. Absolutely horrible. And anybody who tells you that they, like what scares me is my leader in my country, he looks up to the Chinese. He likes this kind of attitude. He likes that direction. God, that scares me to death. Absolutely scares me to death. Do not let your freedoms go lightly, humans. Please, for God's sakes. Because once they're gone, they're gone. I don't want to live in that society. And really, the sad part about it is, yeah, I know, but it's serious, This is why it's so critical. You Americans, this November, you got to push these socialists back. And hopefully, hope, the little dictator in my country gets the message. And Canadian citizens see that the Americans, our next door neighbors, are empowered, and the Canadian citizens push back. Because we're heading in a really, really dangerous direction here. Anyway, and for whatever it's worth, that's this guy talking, who's probably got a prison cell actually with his name written all over it. But anyway, I'll just try and keep barking out what I consider the truth. I don't know whether it's going to get me in trouble or not. I mean, I haven't been outrageously insulting to anybody. And if anything, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to show you guys how the institutions use the humans, right? Mr. Remy and stuff like that. You see how he is completely obsessed about inflation right now. But the irony of it all is that he's just being the public. And if you really want to understand what's actually going on, you got to put away guys like this. I mean, love them dearly, great music, totally awesome. But you actually have to start. And what was I saying to this guy? You want to be a smarter human being, and I'll even put this right in the YouTube channel there. You want to be a smarter human. You really want to, understand the game. You have to sit down and watch this, and you might even have to watch it 2 or 3 times to really understand it. And so the ball's in your court. I've given you guys, maybe Chris, we could also put that in the description of the video. I always like people to watch this guy. I think he's so smart. And really, the only name I know him by is Bill Still. I don't think that's his real name. So, anyway. Okay, I'm actually supposed to be answering questions here. And every time I go to start answering questions, I get derailed. I think I explained to you what I think is going to happen with the old Bitcoin here. So hopefully you guys get that. Now Chris usually shares me. Oh, there it is. Is that the question doc? So I don't know. Are there even any questions here today? So let's see what we got. Maybe there's a question or two. 2 questions. Actually, that's not bad. I think I answered this question last week. And by the way, what I'll usually do is I answer the questions through the week videos as well. So, okay. Through your 30 years of trading experience, how do you see the trading investment industry going forward? I watched a recent interview with Stanley Druckenmiller. He mentioned briefly that he still regards the legacy way of investing, for example, PE, for the next roughly 3 to 4 years. All right, I'm not quite sure what that means. Okay, how do I answer this? I think you have to put the current market into historical context. So, let's do a survey here. And all of you guys listening to me, you should be able to answer this really, really easily. I've shown you guys repeatedly so many times. But if there was we'll give you a ballpark window. If there was a relatively similar historical ballpark comparison window, what would that window be? And just, you can type it out in about 3 or 4 characters. It does not need to be that long. Mike, wow, very good. Nailed it. So somebody on the site has been listening to me, so that's good. Perfect. All right, so my job's done. Mike, you want to go over to YouTube and coach these people because not a single person has answered on YouTube. Let's see if I can find the chart image. I can't do it there. I have to do it over here, I think. Here, 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 here. Well, actually, we'll do two. So we'll do that one. Oops. And this one. All right. So once upon a time, in a land far, far away, I think there is your historical comparison. I hate to say it, but to me, it's almost identical. So did we get any answers? Look at that. Didn't get a single answer over there on YouTube. And really, Mike, you're the only one here who actually answered that question. Do you see that? That's fascinating. Do you honestly give me some feedback here? Do I not pound this message home? Maybe I need to talk more about this. Yes, you do. Anyway, I believe that we the .com boom was exactly the same as the post Civil War baby boom generational peak that happened in the early 1920s there. And in a weird sort of way, you could make an argument that a lot of this run up in price was directly related to a major European power that collapsed the previous decade. Germany in this particular case. And actually, interestingly enough, you could also argue Russia too, because Russia basically the Russian Revolution and the Russian Civil War also probably fueled a lot of this to a certain degree. So here is the 1990s. This is the baby boomer generation. And I argue that it's basically the same thing. This was the Americans winning the Cold War. This was the Soviet Union collapsing. Mr. Putin saying the absolute worst thing that could happen in the 20th century. Then as in this particular case, this was the Great Depression. I think the Great Depression was supposed to happen. I think that 2008 was actually this cycle's same event as sort of, you can see 1938 kind of idea. I believe that, keep in mind that this is a monetary base adjusted image. So this is taking out of the equation the quantitative easing on markets. So if you actually look at the actual prices that you read in your newspaper, the cycles actually look like this. So, looking back over time, so there is that Great Depression cycle. So this post U.S. Civil War baby boom generation, this is the generation that fought the Second World War. Ironically enough, this is probably you millennials, right? And then this is them going into retirement, Tricky Dick leaving the gold standard, all that kind of stuff through here. This is the baby boomers growth cycle. And then interestingly enough, they would not allow the market to go down because, of course, the banksters run this. And, a guy who was brought into Washington, he was a Hollywood actor, so he didn't really understand economics. He actually, when he was governor of California, he was a big sort of fiscal austerity and the government should not spend more money than it brings in, and we should balance the budget and all that. And then all of a sudden, mysteriously, he was elected US president. And then somebody took a poke at him to remind him who's actually in charge of the show. And then mysteriously following that for the rest of his presidency, it was all about deficit spending, which is so sad because that's basically the bankster's message. So as of this point, we live in this world where the world must grow, the money supply must grow because the money multiplier effect. And of course, like we talked about, debt to GDP. You let the debt get too high and the whole system collapses. So we got to just keep making sure that the economy keeps growing. Now, I'm not quite sure which scenario this is. I'm leaning more towards these days the greatest generation coming out of the Great Depression. FDR made a deal with the banksters. You get control of the banks, just turn the credit taps on, and they're like, all right, so we now officially own this society. We own this government. We control everything. And basically, I would make the argument, one of the key reasons why Kennedy got shot was because he wanted to try and reel in the banksters. He came up with the Kennedy silver dollars. He wanted to, basically slow the banksters down with their runaway debt issuance. And of course, he made another enemy. And, we all know what happened to Mr. Kennedy. So, like I said, Mr. Reagan came to Washington, sort of same sort of thing. We'll try and rein in these banksters. They took a poke at him, mind him who's in control, and that stopped toot sweet. I won't get into the politics of George Bush Sr. He's an interesting character. And I do believe that after Mr. Perot humiliated him on the national stage, I think he basically said, fine, you know what, we're going to dismantle this country. And we live in that dismantled country scenario now. So welcome to your future. Thank you, Mr. Bush Sr. But hey, you insult Mr. Bush Sr. and he will single-handedly bankrupt your country, which I think he did with his son. So we live in sort of the aftermath of that world. You see, it's so sad, right? You go to a fast food restaurant, of course, prices are ridiculously high. Inflation's just absolutely out of control. But that's one of the consequences of things like, oh, we lost $1.2 trillion. What? Seriously? You can't actually, you're going to actually con us into believing that you just mysteriously lost $1 trillion. I mean, it's just one thing after another thing after another. It's remarkable how blatant the crime is. I said, if I ever wrote a book about all this, I would call this the crime of the millennium. Because it's incredible how many of these actors have all worked in collusion to just completely just steal a whole generations of wealth. It's remarkable. But fear and greed cycles, regardless of whether you believe in tinfoil hats or not, I believe that if since the banksters are running the show, I don't see any reason why this cycle is going to be any different than the previous cycle. One guy I used to talk to all the time, he said, this is the consolidation of power cycle. I don't think there's any alternative to the US dollar hegemony system. I'm hearing now, you watch that George Gammon guy, and he's getting all excited about the Fed now and how the US Federal Reserve is going to create this centralized digital currency. So in essence, all of the hard work that all you crypto kids have put in over the past 5-10 years, you've basically done all the R&D for the Fed coin. So way to go. You are just as much culpable for our fate as everybody else. And then crypto people are like, what? But seriously. Anyway, point I would just make is that we are in the millennials greed cycle now. So we're probably going to look something along the lines of either the baby boomers greed cycle or the greatest generations greed cycle. It's going to look like either one or the other. I do find it fascinating that when you overlay the two price patterns, notice we seem to be following baby boomers cycle pretty darn closely here. So that's interesting. Here are the various different cycles for, Bitcoin, interesting There's the Bitcoin cycle that was, I guess this was the most recent one, 16 to 20. There's the 12 to 16 cycle, and the orange one is our current one. It looks to me like the stock market's going to find some sort of base here through this the remainder of 22, 23 cycle, and then coming out the other side of this cycle. Oh boy. And what a surprise. I thought this was fascinating. If you apply that same logic on crypto, notice, up, down, up. Oh, there's a halvening event right around that. Oh, what an interesting coincidence. And then the 12-16 cycle, up, down. Remember, I told you 2015, I think that's going to be what our 23 looks like. And there's the halvening event for that particular cycle, and up goes that. So you want a roadmap for what I think's going to happen here in the future? I'd say it's going to look something along these lines. And the interesting thing about Bitcoin is that, if these governments actually got some religion and stopped this ridiculous deficit spending, then actually I'd make the argument that Bitcoin really can't hold a candle. And it wouldn't make sense. But you saw what Sleepy Joe just did. I mean, he just banged through $500 billion. And, again, the same thing as a dear leader here in Canada, $100 million for the gay and lesbian community. And there is no offsetting tax to pay for that. That's just making money up out of nothing. You can't do that in reality. What will happen? I can tell you what's going to happen. Milton Friedman. Do we need to go back down that fucking rabbit hole again? Oh, God, better watch the Money Masters videos and all that, and try and understand that this guy, of course, is coming in at the very end of the conversation. And then we go back up and we're like, okay, so where's Mr. Milton Friedman's money supply and all that kind of stuff? And how does inflation work? And interestingly enough, Chico, he's still holding on to his, I can buy a house with 1 Bitcoin. Ironically enough, I actually don't have that big of a problem with that. I just don't think it's going to be now. I think if anything, what ends up happening is the whole damn inflation thing just keeps chugging along here. Then we'll go through our next halvening event, and God, who knows where the hell they're going to take these damn Bitcoins next cycle. I mean, you see these numbers, could be like $500,000 for a Bitcoin next cycle. I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't get into the business of predicting the future, but I mean, you can see the writings on the walls. So I don't see any end to government spending. I don't see any end to these democratically elected politicians lying to their constituents. I don't see any end to the Jekyll Island crew that have basically Rothschilds taken over the world, and they're more than happy to have any hegemony currency devalued into nothing, and the prices at the grocery store just keep going up and up and up and up and up, generation after generation after generation, until you get to the point where you go, this currency is worthless, and then they go, okay, fine, well, let's go find a different currency. And a lot of people have been talking about things like energy credits are now going to become an actual IMF kind of currency nonsense. So, the writing's on the walls. You want to know what the future looks like? I think it's going to look something along these lines. The question ultimately for our economy is you got to get through this 22, 23 Benner cycle. There's no hurry here, folks. And really, I would just simply say, in crypto, they actually like to call this like the developer cycle. So I don't know whether that helps or not, but let's see, what was the question? I don't really see a hell of a lot of change, What I would suggest you do is go back and look in the 1940s, right? And that's going back to this image, because this is what I think our society is going to go through. And yeah, I mean, do you see how big this stock market's going to be through the 50s and into the 60s? But this isn't, the scary thing is that I used to look at this and go, wow, isn't this incredible? What happened to earnings? What happened to companies' prospects? But it's not that. This is the raw data terms, right? Want to know what our raw data of our current economy looks like? And this happens to be Canada, but it's basically the same in the US. is it actually looks like that. I mean, if you were an equity investor in the year 2000 in Canada and you bought the stock market in the year 2000, how have you done? Have you made any money at all investing in stocks? The good part about it, of course, is that these things do pay a dividend, but the dividends aren't really that much these days. In fact, through here, right, they took them basically to zero. A lot of the companies that were paying dividends, they just stopped paying dividends. So can you understand that actually equity has done shit over the past 20 years? This is how Canada looks, right? Here's the US. The US market, 20 years, an equity investor has actually done budkiss, nothing. You have lost money invested in equity. So it's not really like equity is actually going to get so much more valuable. It's equity actually has to play catch up, and it has to actually get back to normal valuations. Right now, I would argue that we're actually equity-wise, we are stunningly cheap. But there's a fugazi going on here. They just keep printing more and more and more money. Remember, the equity doesn't change. I mean, $1 of value, one pencil, one desk, one computer, one fabricator, one mill, whatever. It just stays the same. But if you just keep printing more and more and more money, well, the value of the asset ironically enough, it has to go up just to maintain its value, but in real terms, right? This is looking at it in adjusted terms. In real terms, right? Not adjusting the currency, not adjusting the assets, they actually rise in price. So how do you get this crazy ass bull market that's going to take these prices to the moon? Well, ironically enough, I'd actually make the argument that equity's cheap right now. And equity's got a lot of catching up to do. And I think it will. And that's exactly what happened in the 1940s, coming out of the backside of the 1940s, 1950s, and into the 1960s. It wasn't that stock prices, all of a sudden it was some huge bull market. It was stock prices were actually being revalued based on what they should be valued. So you're going to have this massive explosion in equity valuations, and all of these historic metrics will all start coming back into line. And that's the irony of it all. We're in a very odd window here, and you have to look at it in historical context. And I don't hear anybody in the market talking like this, which actually surprises me a little bit. But the historical context that I think is we are right around that Bretton Woods event window. That's the easiest way for you to think about this is, think of Klaus's Great Reset as Bretton Woods. Bretton Woods was that particular cycle's Great Reset. Where the hell is that chart? Here. Bretton Woods was right here. And I believe Klaus and all of their cronies and their Great Reset, that is exactly what they're getting ready for us for. That in essence, the Great Reset is the same as whatever this Bretton Woods agreement will be down the road. And I might argue it probably won't happen until they put Vladdy back in the box. So maybe even a coffin, I don't know. But once Vladdy's put back in the box, then I think the world powers, the hegemonies, all them, I don't know whether CCP survives through this. I think they do. But my hunch is once Vladdy's put back in the box, then they will sit down and they will carve out what does this new world order look like. So anyway, and that should set the stage for a pretty precipitous growth, including Bitcoin. But I think you got to wait until we get through the 22-23 cycle. It's pretty straightforward. Anyway, hope that helps answer that question. What do you think? Was that kind of a fun conversation or am I wasting my time? Holy shit, I gotta get out of here. Yeah, okay, so let's see if I can just quickly finish this. Hi, Brian. Is the Benner cycle specifically referring to buying into the stock market 23, 24, or generally as you're looking to buy real estate? Also, in terms of diversification, if it's cash to be in for the coming years, how do you diversify it? Is it across multiple bank accounts or brokerage accounts, or is it on Brian's bed? Well, I would definitely say, in fact, when I was in the bank the other day, I even joked with the bank teller. It was just this little 20-year-old kid. You don't have a fucking clue what's going on. But, here in Canada, they used to have insurance on bank accounts. And if you had a certain amount of money in a bank and the bank failed, then it would be insured by the federal government. And that number is only $100,000. So first and foremost, do not keep more than $100,000 in any one specific financial institution. Now, probably a lot of you are going, "Oh, geez, what a tough life to be in to have to worry about having more than $100,000 in an institution." The point here is, if you are above that 100,000, just go and put it in a different bank. And I'm not saying that they're going to pay you the day the bank goes under. In fact, it probably will be year. You know what? It will probably be as long as it takes for you to get your Gox coin out of Mount Gox insolvency, you to actually get paid your bank money out of these bank accounts. It'll probably take exactly the same amount of time. So with that said, I'm not sleeping at night depending on it. But what I will say is, if you have more than 100,000 in your bank, sorry, the limit is 100,000. After that, you're SOL. So there's that. And what I've done is I've sprinkled it amongst a commodity brokerage house down in the States, fairly well-known international brokerage house, my local bank, and actually the balances in my local bank, actually I've dwindled them down quite a bit. Interestingly enough, I've actually paid almost all of next year's tax bill already. So the good part about that is, it is not good, but if the economy falls off the cliff and TRI's site revenue goes down, ironically enough, I've already paid my tax bill for the next year or two. It's just a question of how big of a refund are they going to give me. If we, of course, keep making more money and the economy keeps growing and you guys are all taking courses and buying our products, then, hey, I'm going to owe more than taxes. But if anything, it's not a bad idea that actually I've gone and paid all those withholding taxes and everything. And technically 2023 is all, the 2022 tax year is all paid for now. I have registered accounts, and ironically enough, in those registered accounts, those are registered with the government. And of course, all of their sort of ridiculous lending and stuff is based on those assets as collateral. So I don't think that they can go and steal those assets, because then that starts to unwind their whole sort of money lending system with the banksters. So that's another reason why they probably won't let the 401k system down in the States fall. They won't let the housing market collapse, because all of that collateral is basically pledged to hold up all this bad debt that they're issuing. So I don't think that they're going to let those, they will just keep coming out and printing more money and more money and more money. And hell, does Bitcoin get up to $500,000 a coin? And frankly speaking, in this Fakezi nutso world, that could very easily happen. I like the idea of, like that Rumble. I love the idea of investing in something like that. We have, of course, a great research team at TRI. So there's lots and lots of cool names that I am investing in. There's like this one exoskeleton company that I think as soon as they get the technology mastered, they're going to have so many of these baby boomers that are all stuck in wheelchairs that still want to go out and play golf. They're going to just be throwing bags of money at those kind of guys. So I love investing in those kind of ideas. I've told people repeatedly, you really want to sit down and think about what are the industries that are going to be serviced for this millennial cycle coming up. And I think a lot of baby boomers are still alive. They still have a lot of money. And so, investing in pharmaceuticals, investing in things like that, exoskeleton sort of services for the aged. I love that kind of investing. Crypto is a huge fundamental driver for profits this cycle. So I think investing in crypto names is a good idea. I'm wondering about what I want to do with cash balances. I don't know whether I really want to lock it in for too long. If anything, what I would prefer to do is build like my shopping list of preferred ideas, just wait in cash. And then when the market tanks, kind of like what I was saying with Bitcoin, if you are a Bitcoiner, I think you want to have a whole bunch of cash ready to go. And literally, you want to have your stink bids working, but you can't work a stink bid unless you've got the cash. So, I like the idea of just sprinkling in a whole bunch of stink bids here on Bitcoin. And, whether it be Apple stock or the stock market or any of that kind of stuff, I love the idea of working your stink bids. And if this thing just collapses, just like the institutions, you are buying down markets. That's what I like to do as an investor. So ironically enough, this is a kind of situation where I don't really want to be selling. I want to actually be getting ready to buy over the next 6-8 months. So hopefully that helps answer that question. Okay, we're getting on here. I got to get out of here in about 20 minutes. So I think I'm probably going to leave it at that. We can always do a bit more follow-up. So whoever asks these questions, I'll check back in tomorrow through the daily brief. And if you felt like you got a correct answer, then just put, yep, sounds good, Brian, thank you. Or can you elaborate and we can talk a bit more through the video tomorrow. All right. All right, so why don't we leave it at that? Thank you so much, everybody, for your participation. Sure hope you enjoyed the rant. Wish me luck with the boy. Thank you very much for your best wishes with regard to that. Absolutely helps out a lot karmic-wise. PMA for the win. And I suppose the next time I'm going to be talking to all you people in the public, I'm probably actually going to be in Europe. So I have no idea how to say goodbye in Portuguese, but if somebody can figure it out, please let me know. I better work on it. I will say for the time being, hope you guys enjoyed the broadcast. PMA for the win. Chris, if you could take us on out of here, have yourselves a great trip. All the best. Thank you for the best wishes there. All the best. And the only thing left for me to say is bye for now.